There aren't many phones that have been released in the past 5 or 10 years that have truly excited me, and I think a lot of that comes down to how stagnant the design of modern smartphones have gotten. This one, though, this one's different. I've spent the past 48 hours with Samsung's new Z Flip 3, and I can already tell you that this is the phone that I'm gonna wanna keep in my pocket for a long time, for a lot of different reasons. To be honest, it has almost nothing to do with all of the nerdy stuff that us tech YouTubers usually get excited about. It doesn't have the greatest display of all time, or cameras that wow you with every picture you take, or even an extra large battery. In those ways, this phone isn't special. But that's okay, because this phone has something that all of those other phones don't. It's novel and completely unique in design, and after years and years of boring glass slabs, it's extremely refreshing to use. The Flip 3 is a head turner. Now, I personally went with the stealthy matte black version, but you can get it in a number of colors like green, purple, gray, white, cream, and pink, all of which stand out more than the colorway that I have. When it's fully open, it just looks like a normal phone. In fact, if I handed a Z Flip 3 to someone who has never seen the phone before, I don't think they'd think anything of it. It just looks like every other smartphone when it's completely open. But if someone catches you folding it shut, it's kind of shocking to them. They kind of look at you and smile like, did you just fold your phone in half? What? And I think that's exactly what Samsung was going for. When it's folded shut and sitting on a table, it catches your eye, especially when that cover display is turned on. Almost all of Samsung's branding suggests that the person that buys this phone wants to stand out. But as a person that most definitely does not want to do that, I can tell you that this phone excites me for other reasons. The Z Flip 3 really does feel incredible to use. The hinge that pivots the phone from open to closed feels rock solid and as smooth as butter in operation. Whoever designed this thing deserves an award, because it honestly feels like it could last for decades without a hitch. It locks into the open position with confidence, and then when you close it, the magnets snap it shut with a satisfying sound. It's hard to talk about long-term durability after only a couple of days with this phone, but after owning both of the previous Galaxy Fold devices in the past, I can tell you that the Z Flip 3 definitely feels more refined. You know how the displays of laptops wobble around if you move them too much? I kind of expected the same thing to happen with this phone, but that doesn't happen at all. The phone will stay perfectly rigid at almost any angle, and it doesn't move or shift around when you shake it. It's those little things that make the Z Flip 3 feel like an expensive phone. They've made the phone IPX8 water resistant too, which is a huge deal for peace of mind. The X in IPX8 means it isn't rated for dust resistance, so maybe don't take it to a beach or a desert anytime soon, but the fact that they've made a phone with so many mechanical moving parts water resistant is kind of a technical marvel. I also really like that they flattened out the side rails for a more modern look, but then they've just rounded it off at the very edges so that it's still a comfortable phone to hold. Honestly, it's just a really clean, good-looking phone in my opinion. That glossy top portion that houses the cover display makes it reminiscent of the good old Pixel 2 XL, and I love that. The cover display is one of the biggest upgrades over last year's Z Flip, and it definitely makes a difference. There are a bunch of different widgets that you can scroll through, like the weather, alarms, timers, music controls, and more, but you can also read and dismiss notifications and use things like Samsung Pay, all without opening up your phone. My personal favorite part of the cover display though is how much easier it is to use the rear-facing cameras as front-facing cameras. It's just big enough to see yourself to get your framing right, and as a result, any selfies you take end up looking much better than phones that just use their front-facing cameras. Alright, let's talk about the display improvements. The Z Flip 3 still has the same size 6.7-inch display as last year, but it is a very different panel. First of all, even though it is still only 1080p, it runs at a 120Hz refresh rate, so it feels much more fluid and snappy than last year. Samsung also claims that they've made their inner display 80% more durable than before, and they've attached a screen protector from the factory, although it annoyingly doesn't cover the area of the screen directly above the hole punch. While I still wouldn't be trying to scratch or push on this display too hard anytime soon, I do have a lot more confidence in this screen compared to last year's iteration. There's still a crease though, right in that center where the phone folds, and yes, you can see it and feel it in everyday use. Most of the time it will be mostly invisible, but it's definitely still there. Is it a deal breaker? No, of course not, but would I like to see it disappear somehow in future versions of this phone? Absolutely. The display is one of Samsung's foldable dynamic AMOLEDs, so you can expect color and contrast to be every bit as great as Samsung's other flagship phones. As for those nerdy internal specs I spoke about earlier, this year's Flip comes with a top-of-the-line Snapdragon 888, 8GB of RAM, and either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. It feels every bit as fast as my other flagships like my S21 Ultra or my OnePlus 9 Pro, especially with that 120Hz display. As cool and fun as this phone is though, I do have some concerns going forward. This 6.7-inch phone with a 120Hz refresh rate display has a somewhat tiny 3300 mAh battery. Now I understand why the battery is so small, given that it has to fit 2 battery halves in each little square section of the phone, but that's almost definitely going to lead to poor battery life unless you choose to throttle the refresh rate back to 60 Hz, something that no self-respecting lover of technology should ever have to do. So like I said at the very beginning of this video, I can tell already that I'm gonna wanna use this phone for a long time. It's just so exciting and novel, and that's not a feeling that a modern smartphone has given me in a while. I got a lot more testing to do, but I'm really enjoying this little Flip so far. Hope you liked the video, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.